Okay. Welcome to the Artist Path. I am your host, Flynn, and I am here with another very special guest, good friend of mine, Unique. Unique, please introduce yourself.
Hey guys, my name is Unique Montgomery. I am a student at GGC. I am a poet. I am a creative. I am a lot of things. I'm unique. Hey. Shit.
Hey, her name is Unique because she is unique.
Oh my
See,
god.
I feel bad. I know, right? I feel bad. I forgot to tell you there was going to be like some sort of introduction. That's on me.
No, it's
That's
fine.
I actually forgot. Like I just hit the record button. And I was like, oh wait, I do have to introduce this.
Yeah, it's okay.
So,
I just kind of had to make something up.
right? Well, I didn't know. I actually didn't. I forgot that you're still going to GGC.
I am. I am still going to GGC. I'm about to go into my sophomore. No, my the second semester of the sophomore year because I took like a break to go to boot
Mm.
camp. So it kind of got all weird. So now it's hard for me to like kind of calculate. But yeah, I'm going to be going to the second half of my sophomore year, basically.
So, what is your major?
Psychology. That is my major.
Oof, oof. We're definitely gonna talk about that. Um, but when did you first start writing poetry?
When did I first start writing poetry? I started writing poetry like my freshman year of high school is when I really started getting into it because we were kind of learning about it in class and stuff. And then I started doing it in my free time, and that's when I really started getting into it.
So, how many years would you say?
How many years have I been? Shoot, I mean, I still write poetry to this day, so about 4 to 5 years. I think going on 6 years. I think going on six
That means
years
you're an
now.
expert. Expert.
I wouldn't say all that. No, I wouldn't say all that. But I do write poetry a lot. I didn't necessarily. I've never actually studied, you know, the in depth. I never really studied in depth like the fundamentals and stuff. But I do write a lot in my own way.
Mm. Would you say that's necessary to study the fundamentals of poetry if you're going to be writing poetry?
My personal opinion, no. I think anyone can write poetry without learning all the in-depth stuff, like all the, where to put the punctuation and all that. I feel like with poetry, it's more of an open sort of expression where you don't have to necessarily do that. But just like with other art forms, some people think in order to be better at it or to when you have so many eyes looking at it, it may be better to have that in-depth background knowledge, basically. But I don't think I think you can write. I think anyone can write.
Right. And I know that form and like the rules of things can keep people from actually creating. So I
Exactly.
think when you get hung up on that, it can definitely be a negative.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends who are like they look at my poetry and they'll be like, "Oh, how'd you get started?" And they'll like ask me about these specific things. I'm like, I don't know any of that. Like, I just write. They're like, but how come it's structured like this? I'm like, my stuff is not structured I don't like structure it any type of way. It's just like I just write. Like I don't, you know what I mean? So I don't know.
Right. It's your style, you know.
Yeah.
You can't teach style. Like
Yeah.
you just have style. Style is the way you do things.
Yeah. So I think that's a big thing, what you said. How people that I feel like that does keep people from writing and just creating in
It
general.
does, and it sucks because I think it's really when you're a beginner, like more so when you're into it already. You don't really think about it because you have the momentum. But when you're trying to get into something, you always think about the how instead of going in with beginner's
Mhm.
mind and really learning as you go. Um,
Yeah, gotta have that wiki
that
how.
wiki.
step one.
Right, you got to know exactly what steps you're gonna take and what it looks like and all that stuff. That's that analytical stuff. It man.
There's like benefits to it, but then it's like also it can hold you back a lot. Like I feel like when it comes to like visual art and drawing and that type of stuff, I can get like that where I'm like, dang, I don't know how to draw this one thing, so then it prevents me from drawing this whole thing that I wanted to do. So it just
Yeah, and I've kind of felt like that too with this podcast. It was like, how do I record this? Where do I record it through? What if the audio sounds like this and sounds like that, or and I think you just gotta take that step, that leap of faith, and trust yourself enough to figure it out as you go. Like that's been my solution.
yeah, it's all about making decisions. Gotta make a decision and stick with it. Just
Right.
do it.
Commitment is no joke, man. But could you share one of your poems? Give our audience a special taste of that unique style.
Special. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna read this one. It's called Avoiding Your Gaze. And I just really like this one. It's one of my most recent ones. Okay, so this journey weighs on me like a promise I swore to keep. My doubt preys upon me with the eyes of a vulture, fresh dead meat. You gaze upon me, consumption. Your eyes eat at my skin until I no longer know who I am. You look but do not see me. May never know how you truly perceive me. How can you bite yet never taste me? I watch the time as you waste mine. I wait patiently for you to replace me. And then that's it.
She talking. Can I get some snaps? Can I get some snaps from my imaginary audience?
I gotta stop for
Right. Can I get some
myself.
snaps from my imaginary audience in the crowd? She's talking. She's talking. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Calm down. Calm down. That was great. That was great.
Thank you.
I like to, when I'm listening to someone sharing poetry or just sharing something verbal, I like to close my eyes and really visualize their words and what they're saying, like the story behind their words. And then with that poem, it was so clear. Like it was so clear. I pictured someone's eyes like actually eating your body. I know that sounds weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that. I like that. It means that means it's good. That means that's exactly what I'm going for. Like I don't know. It's all about how you place the words. You have to try to, I don't know, when I write, I try to write in a way to like capture a moment, basically. And that, what you're describing, what you saw, that's like part of the moment that I wanted to capture.
That brings up a good point. What are some of the things that you want to capture in your poetry? Like, what are some of the common themes of your work?
Love. A lot of it revolves around love and like what it is and what is it a thing? Is it real? Is it imaginary? Is it something that we've made up? Is it something that, is real? And then alongside with that, lust, the other side of that, lust, again, like I feel like that's very real. What else? I also like to capture moments where it's hard to describe, just like moments where you're alone. You know what I mean? The thoughts you have when you're alone and you're reflecting, those kind of thoughts. I like to capture those kind of moments.
Like when there's nothing there to distract you and you really have to stay with yourself.
Mm-hmm. You have to face the mirror and say, what exactly is going on in your head right now?
Right. And those are very intimate, vulnerable moments.
Yes.
And I think as a creative, you kind of have to tap into those moments, but in general, people are usually scared of sitting with themselves and scared of being vulnerable, scared of knowing how they feel, because once you know how you feel, you have to do something about it. You have to face it,
Exactly.
and that's not an easy thing to do. I was kind of like that in the past. I'd like to say that I've changed, of course. New year, new me. but but I just gotten more comfortable with, like you said, sitting with yourself and sitting with those thoughts and addressing them, like not just listening to them and hearing what they say, but
Exactly.
hearing the voice behind them. And what why do I feel like I'm not good enough in this moment? Why do I feel like I messed up
Exactly.
in this situation socially? Why do I feel like I'm socially awkward? Why do I feel like my work isn't good enough? I really challenge those thoughts, and especially when I journal.
Exactly.
I'm sure you journal too, because I feel like,
I do.
yeah, like I could just tell. And I feel like poetry is almost like a form of journaling.
Yeah, I used to when I first started writing out, people ask me like, "Why do you write?" I would be like, "It's like purging the
Mm,
thoughts, just purging all the thoughts going on in your head, get them out, just get them out onto paper, so there's not so many up there." It's the most simplest way of putting it.
man, like I think I've consciously started to journal, or I've started journaling more consciously, I'll say, more deliberately. So I don't just write, oh, I'm sitting here and
Mm,
I'm bored, or I hope today's a good day. Like I
right.
really sit there and dive deep. Like yesterday, I was talking to someone and I felt triggered when they said, blah, 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 blah. Why did I feel triggered? And I just sit there and I wait for something to come. And if nothing comes, I don't write anything. But I think the point is once you really sit with yourself and you allow yourself to be vulnerable, and if you have the courage to sit through it, amazing things usually happen.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I feel like you can grow so much more, and I feel like your mind just expands so much more. You're more welcoming to different experiences when you sit with yourself and journal, or you don't even have to journal. Just sit with yourself and listen, and you know, but like listen with the intent to do something about it. Listen with the intent to make a change. Listen with the intent to like change how your relationships go with other people, how you interact with other people.
Mm. You're speaking my language. but that's a perfect segue, actually, um, into this next question.
I love that word, segue. I love that
It's,
word.
it's such a good word, right?
I know.
Like, it's not like this is a perfect good transition. Like transition seems too harsh.
Right. Segue is like we like we're going
We
we
just we just took a detour.
right.
So perfect segue into this next question. What would you say is the correlation between vulnerability and creativity?
Vulnerability and creativity. I feel like the correlation, you have to be vulnerable in order. I feel like you have to let yourself be vulnerable in order to creatively express yourself to the best extent, if that makes sense. Because you can always creatively express yourself and be superficial about it. And a lot of people like to do that because they don't want to put all of themselves out there like that, which is fine. But I feel like in order to get that thing that everyone relates to, that people, whether it could be a song or, an art piece or a poem, that thing that gets that person to feel it, you have to be vulnerable. I feel like that's the correlation between it.
Right. And you brought up a good point about relatability. I think vulnerability plus creativity equals relatability.
Yes,
If you
definitely.
were to put into a math equation, I wasn't really
Yeah.
good at math.
We're doing math out here.
Right. Shout out to the math majors out there, all five of them, all five of them.
Right.
But I think that's a big thing for me personally. This year I've set the intention to be more vulnerable in my work, whatever it is. When I'm working on something, no matter what it is, like if I'm painting something or I'm making a song, just showing people,
Yeah.
because I have a habit of not showing people and just doing it and just saying, "Oh, well, I did it."
Right.
But, like no one's able to digest it. No one's able to see what I do. It's almost like hoarding your artwork, like hoarding your
Exactly.
work. And maybe this analogy
I feel
doesn't
like I'm
fit.
getting called out. I like low key
Oh,
do that.
hey, yeah, if the shoe fit, if the shoe fit, yeah, you are guilty. You're guilty. You're definitely guilty.
The whole podcast just takes a turn. Actually, we brought you here.
There's like 10 people who are actually on this call.
We brought you here to confront you.
Right? It's an intervention at this point. But yeah, it's like you just gotta share, if it's
Hmm.
a God gifted talent, then God placed it within you to make this world a better place, or to connect with somebody else, or to inspire people. So you can't hoard it. And you brought up a really, really good point of people creating from a superficial place. And
Hmm.
for a lot of people, that's creating out of wanting to experience something that's external, like
Hmm.
fame, money, recognition, things like that. Those motives can really affect your creativity in very, very subtle ways. And you don't always see it in like a technical sense. Like
Hmm.
you don't always see it in like the words someone says, or
Feel it though.
you can feel it. You can feel it. And that's what makes something relatable versus like not relatable.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I feel like a good example is like music. Like when people go and you hear like an artist when they first start out and they sound so like passionate, they sound so real. And that's how they get that their fan base like leeches onto that. Then like as they get bigger, in some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases, as they get bigger, I feel like that genuine sound that they used to have isn't really there anymore. Like it kind of falls off a little bit, and their original fan base kind of falls off along with it, and they gain other fans in the process, which is like good for them in the materialistic sense. But it's like, it's not the same. I don't know if you know what I mean, but yeah.
I definitely do. One of the artists that comes to my mind is Kid Cudi, and he doesn't fit
Ah,
that example perfectly, of
right,
course.
right, right,
But I just know his music in general is very vulnerable and very open, even to this day.
right.
But I know he's gained a lot of fans through that vulnerability. He's one of the most vulnerable artists, in my opinion,
Yes.
especially in the lane of like rap as a black artist, because
He's kind of changed
vulnerability,
it around.
yeah, like vulnerability is a whole intervention for black people. Like
Right.
that's a whole, not
It's
even
the whole
podcast,
thing.
like
It's like, whoa, whoa, hold up
that's a
now.
whole 10-hour documentary.
They're
Like,
like, we getting vulnerable out here. Let's chill out a little bit.
no way, I gotta go.
All right. Suddenly, everybody has somewhere to be.
Right? People who have no job, have no responsibilities, they have things to do suddenly. But, but it's like a
Yeah.
whole thing, and he's really changed, I say, the music industry, but especially black music, black rap
Hmm.
music, how they're being more vulnerable and stuff. But you definitely can connect with someone who's and I think the scary thing is as the artist, you have to be comfortable enough not only to be vulnerable with yourself, but also allow other people into your world. Like, you have
Exactly.
to allow other people to see your pain and interpret it for themselves, and you can be judged and ridiculed for that, but you have to be brave enough and courageous enough and bold enough and fearless enough to really put yourself out there. And
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared shitless of that. I'd be
Yeah,
completely
I'm
lying.
definitely a fear of mine, because you put if you put something I don't know, you put something out there, and it's like anyone can take it and make it whatever they want it to mean, and that's so scary. Like that's so scary, because the script could be flipped just like that,
Right.
and it's just crazy. It's crazy to think about. But you have to just kind of stand by your truth. Just stand by what your intentions were with whatever you created, and then also be accepting of whatever anyone else interprets it to be, but you don't have to accept that as your truth, you know?
Right. Man, I always say that it sucks.
Yeah,
Honestly.
it sucks. It does suck. It does suck.
It
It
sucks.
does.
The analogy for me is that saying that people say. They say if a tree falls in the woods and there's nobody there, does it make a sound? It's like if an artist creates something but the world doesn't see it, is it actually art? Like,
Right.
does it actually exist? You know, like is it an actual thing? And of course it is, but you know the analogy kind of has a point of if you don't share it, if you're not being vulnerable enough to share it, is it really serving its purpose?
Right, right.
And that's a question that I think all artists, all creatives, all people in general have to really answer. But
Mhm.
specifically speaking, people who create things, people who create art or create other things, create from their soul, those are questions that they have to answer and be
Right.
comfortable with answering. I remember another segue. I remember a few years back at an open mic at on campus on Georgia Gwinnett College, GGC's campus. I believe it was your first time performing. Correct
Yes,
me if I'm wrong. It was your
was.
first time. Okay, so tell me about that experience. Like, what made you go up? What made you go up there? Like, if it was your first time, like, what pushed you to say, "Okay, this is that moment. I'm gonna do it."
Yeah, I mean, it was scary. I was extremely nervous. I'm not even gonna lie, because I wouldn't consider myself a shy person, but I'm also like a person more to myself. Like I like to stick to myself for the most part. But like I had heard about the open mic, and my friends and I we were talking about it, and I have another friend. She's like into poetry a lot as well, and like I would talk to her about how I would write poetry a lot, but I never really did spoken word like that. Like I just wasn't that person. I just like to write, you know. And so she was like, "No, you should do it. We'll both do it. We'll go up there." I'm like, "Girl," I thought she was crazy. I'm not going up there. And but then she kind of convinced me to do it, and I was like, we would sit around and I would share my poems and like, no, you gotta do it, you gotta do it. And so I went up there, and it was so scary because that was my first semester at GGC. So I was like a brand new freshman up in here
Ooh.
hopping on this stage. I'm just like super scared. But I did it, and it was a great experience, honestly. I'm glad that I did it. It kind of opened my eyes to like, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do something like this instead of just sticking to writing.
Oh, you definitely can. I remember that performance. You I was in the building for that one. Um, you definitely can, and I definitely do think you should share more. We talked about that a little bit earlier,
Hmm.
um, but I definitely do think you should share your work more often. But I do remember that performance, and it was a while ago. But I remember you going on stage, and I remember you coming off, and I don't think we knew each other then. I think
We
it
did,
was like a little bit after that, but I
yeah.
remember that I remembered you from that performance. So for me to remember you from that performance, it means you did well.
Yeah, it's so weird too because I didn't think like it was that memorable because I mean you were there for the other performances too. Like it was a whole thing. Like there was a bunch of other. It wasn't just poetry. There was like people rapping. There was people doing all different kinds of stuff. So it was pretty cool. But I didn't think that mine would be something that someone would remember. But like people would come up to me and be like, "Oh yeah, I saw you at the thing," and I'm like, "What? Like what? You're paying attention?"
Right?
It's scary.
All 12 of you in the crowd when y'all saw me?
Right? I'm like, huh?
In your head, when you're on stage, you think it's like 50,000 people and they're all just staring at you. But when
Right.
you really pay attention, you see, oh, okay, there's like 20 people in here, like 25 people.
Exactly.
And you know most of these people, like these
Hmm.
people are in your classes or you walk past them.
Right.
Um, so I didn't know that somebody pushed you to kind of like, like pushed you to go forward and pushed you to perform and pushed you to share. How important is that to have a friend or a mentor or maybe a family member or just somebody close to you who is willing to not push you too hard, but encourage you to take these steps and make yourself vulnerable and share your work with people and perform at open mics and upload your music? How important is it to have somebody like that in your corner?
It's extremely important. Like on a scale of 1 to 10 is an 11. Like it's really important to have someone like that in your corner, because especially in times where like you're really insecure about whatever it is you're creating, or you're just unsure of whether you even want to share it at all. Like it's good to have someone like that to share it with, so that you're not like, okay, if you're not ready to put it out to a bunch of people, you can share it with that person and they can give you feedback on it. And then, depending on how that feedback goes, it can push you to do better, or they can push you to be like, okay, no, this is good. Like, put it out now. Like, what are you doing? And you can just kind of be that second voice, really. It's just like, I feel like deep down as an artist, you already know what it is. Like, if your art is good, it's good. It's just that other voice is just like little voice saying, no, I'm scared. So like, you don't do it. But
Right.
it's good to have that other second bigger voice coming from someone else saying, no, do it. So yeah, I think it's really
Right.
important.
Right. There's this book called, what is it called? I think it's called The Artist Way, I believe. And in that book, the author talks about the censor. I could be
Ooh.
recalling this wrong, but they say that negative voice is the censor, and that voice really tries to talk you down from things and talks negatively to you and says, no, your work's not good enough, and maybe I
Right.
shouldn't share this because people won't like it, and this and that and this and that.
And
And
it's like, it's almost like the more you focus on it, at first it's really small, like it's really low, it's just like a
right,
little whisper, and then like the more you focus on it, it gets so loud. And when you don't have someone like that in your corner, it kind of just overpowers everything.
when you don't have somebody like that in your corner, it can get pretty bad. It could get dark, and you could start really listening to that voice.
For
And
real.
it's always good to have that extra opinion, but it has to be someone that
Yeah,
you trust. It has to be
definitely.
somebody that you trust, that can be honest with you.
It's crazy though, because it doesn't even have to be like that. I'm glad you said someone that you trust, because that could be anyone. Because it doesn't have to be someone you've known for a long time. Like, it can just be someone that you just feel a bond with. You just trust them to push you in the right direction. You know what I mean? So that's a good word.
Right,
Someone that you trust.
right. And as the creative, you have to be responsible enough, intuitive enough, sensitive enough to know who that is, because that takes some
Exactly.
work on your part. That takes a lot of
Yeah.
work on your part.
It's also good to not even just have one person, but like a group of people too.
Yeah,
Just
like a
proof of thought.
community of people.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure, for sure. I think some people, that'll probably be like overwhelming at first, but definitely as you
Yeah.
grow into becoming more vulnerable with people, having a good team that gives you mixed results. Like doesn't give you. They're not all yes men or yes woman.
Yeah.
They they're willing to tell you when you're stepping out of line, or if your work isn't as good as it can be, or if you're holding yourself
Hmm.
back. You need people to hold you accountable and responsible.
Yes, for sure.
So, how I know we're on the topic of vulnerability and openness, authenticity, I would say. How does writing poetry benefit your emotional health?
As it benefits it in the best way possible, because I feel like it allows me to, like how I said earlier, like purge out all the thoughts so that they're out on the paper. And it's just a way, because thoughts are such a weird concept, because they're just there. They're, they come, they go. They're not like concrete things. And so to put it on paper, at least some of them anyway, the ones that you can like catch, they're like butterflies, but
Mm.
so to put it on paper, it's just like, I don't know, it gives you kind of a sense of control, and like times where you may feel like everything is going crazy. So I feel like it does wonders for my emotional health and my mental health and just overall health.
So it sounds like it grounds you. Is that
Yes.
is that an accurate word?
Yes, I would say that, yes.
Definitely very grounding. And going back to what we said about journaling, like
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely a grounding exercise. So I could see that. It's you said they're like butterflies. The thoughts
Yeah,
are like
thoughts are like butterflies. They
I love
are they not?
that. I love that. I love
They
that.
are. They're just there, and you're like, oh snap, like that's a cool butterfly. Or you're like, oh snap, that's like a really sus butterfly. Like, is it poisonous or something? I don't know. I don't know if
It
butterflies are
looks like a
poisonous.
moth.
Right.
You
Is it a moth? Kill it. Like, I don't know. And then it goes away, and you're like, oh snap, like, wait, what was that? What was that again? And you're like, oh, well, whatever. And then there's another one, and another one, and another one. Crazy. You have to try to catch them.
you get stuck and there's like a whole bunch of moths around you. You're like, oh, the moths are
Right?
happy.
You're just batting them away and stuff. Crazy.
Right.
Craziness. Just gotta purge the thoughts.
I'm gonna be journaling tomorrow, just picturing like, oh yeah, I just caught a butterfly.
Yeah,
Just caught another
for
one.
real. For real.
Oh man. Um, I know some people who only create when they're happy or only create when they're sad. Um, Me personally, I try to create out of all of my emotions, and strangely enough, I can write a sad song when I'm feeling very happy,
Ooh,
or
that's a
vice.
gift.
That's a gift. Or
It is. For real.
we're gonna get into that. But I can also like write a sad song when I'm very happy, and I don't think I realize it in the moment, because sometimes only when I'm writing a song, like only phrases will come to me or lines will come to me, but I don't,
Mm-hmm.
like a piece of the puzzle will come to me, but I don't see the full puzzle just yet.
Right.
I'll just see a piece and I'll say, oh, I like this piece, and as I start putting it together, I realize, oh, this is not a happy song.
Right. You're like, this is a sad picture.
I know, and I'm like, why am I writing this? Like, I feel pretty happy. Like, why did it go in this direction?
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I don't always know until after I finish it and I really observe the final puzzle piece, and I say, oh, this was inside me the whole time, and I'm purging myself. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
purging the thoughts, as you
Yep.
as you mentioned earlier. Um, it's like I'm purging the emotion, like I'm transmuting it, I'm getting it out of me,
Right.
and I don't realize that until after the moment. So that's why sometimes I can write a sad song when I'm happy, or vice versa. But what about you? Like, what emotions do you usually create out of?
I usually create out of sadness. Not gonna lie. A lot of times it's out of sadness, or that sounds so depressing. That
I
sounds so
mean,
depressing, but like, yeah, it's like, I'm okay, because I'm a really emotional person, like inside, but outwardly I don't necessarily express um my emotions that much. I think that's probably another reason why I turn to poetry and like journaling a lot. But I go from extremes. So it's like I either create from like a place where I'm really, really down, or where I'm like really, really up and really, really happy. But like when I'm in that between state, or like when I'm in a chaotic mindset, I don't create things. I don't know why. I mean, I guess there's no wonder why. It's kind of hard to create when there's chaos. But like, I find that whenever I'm busy in my like day-to-day life, or just, it won't even be like, I won't even be super super busy, but it's like if my mind feels busy, I don't really create anything. I go through like a little creative lull. So it's kind of
Mm.
weird. It's like I create from extremes, basically, from places where I'm really, really sad or like really, really happy.
And not usually the middle ground in between.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
But
Um,
I mean, I don't know. It's working for me so far.
right,
Because, like,
right.
when I get like that, when I get in the really, really down, it kind of like levels me out when I write. And then when I'm really, really happy, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like just, I need to create something. Like, I'm like, my vibration's like super high. I just have to, I just get it out. And then it kind of just like mellows me out a little bit more. And like, okay, brings me, I find a balance basically from writing.
Right. And not everybody is going to be the same. I think that's one of the things that everybody has to understand is that if creating from a very, very low or very, very high place works for you, like that is perfectly fine.
Mhm.
Like I tend to really create out of everything. So,
Yeah.
if I'm feeling great, I'm feeling, I can write about anything. If I'm feeling bad, I think it's because like it's all about focus for me.
Right.
Like it's not about feeling away, it's about feeling the focus. Like I can
Mm-hmm.
be in a chaotic state. We painted the other week. This happened the
Yeah.
other week when we were at the park and we were painting. I
Mm-hmm.
painted that black picture with
The
like,
smile. Yeah.
yeah, the smile. It was like a I don't even know how to describe the face, but it was like a mellowed out face. I'll just use
Mm-hmm.
that term. And under it said smile, but everything was black and it was dark. And I was
Right.
feeling very good. You were there. I was smiling. We were
Right.
laughing. We were joking. And you're
And
just
I
like,
looked
"What?
over and I saw you painting. And I was like, oh, is everything all
So,
right?
how you feeling, bud?"
Like, is anything you want to share with us today?
I'm just like, "No, I'm great." But I had that image like in my head, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Yo, I gotta get this out." And
Right.
that was the moment. Like that was the perfect moment for me to do it. I was feeling great, but I was feeling focused.
Yeah, I think that is good. I think, yeah, that's a good way to put it. The focus. The focus. Because I feel like when I'm in a chaotic, I do have a hard time focusing. That's one of my struggles that I'm trying to deal with. I have a hard time focusing when I get in such a chaotic state mentally. Like, so when I can't focus, I don't write because I just, I mean, I've tried to at some points, but it doesn't. Usually, what happens when I try to write in a chaotic state, I'll write like maybe a word or two, and then I just won't write for like weeks, and then I'll write some another word or two, and then it just doesn't work. It doesn't really flow like how I guess I want it to flow. So I just kind of leave it. And then I just like go in my journal and there's just like random words there. And I'm like, it's so weird because I never end up using, whenever I write from like an unfocused, I don't use it. I don't use it.
Oh
It just
wow.
is, it's just there.
You don't like pick up the pieces and try to put it together with other pieces.
No, I don't. It's so weird. I just don't. I just kind of leave it there. Sometimes like I know, because I always, whenever I'm constantly, well, I won't say constantly, but well, no, I will use the word constantly. Constantly, like in the back of my mind, there's always like some. It's constantly connections are constantly being made, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and like I'll make a connection, and I'll have to like I'm like, oh my God, I need to write that down, and so I'll like write it down, like physically, like actually write it down, or I'll like put it in my notes in my phone, and um those times I usually will like actually go back and do something with it. But like whenever I'm feeling like unfocused, I don't know. It's so hard to describe. So hard to describe. But yeah, whenever I'm feeling unfocused and I'm just like BSing basically, I don't usually come back to it. I'll just like kind of leave it there. But I also don't erase it. I just leave it. You know what I mean?
Right. So I think regardless, it serves its purpose for you.
Right.
Even if it's just to show you that in that moment things weren't connecting, you still put something out, and I think that's still wise and beneficial in the
Mhm.
long run. Because then when you do feel that flow, you can always look back and say, okay, well, this is what it looks like when I'm flowing, and this is what it looks like when I'm not flowing. So let me not force it.
Right.
That's that gives you more information about yourself and your own process. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I
a
think
good way to
that's
put it.
that is a very positive spin on it, isn't
Yes, I'm like, I like
it?
that. I like that. It's really motivational, Flynn.
thank you.
Hey,
Thank
Flynn,
you.
you're one of the people that are in my corner, you know? Need more people like
Oh,
Flynn.
it's funny you say that because I just got off the phone with a friend and I was saying like, yeah, like everybody needs a board of trustees
A
and
board of trustees.
yeah, like a
I
board of
just like when I hear
trustees.
that, I hear like a person in a suit just like carrying a
Right.
briefcase.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Like a board of trustees, like a council, people who sit on like a board and you just go to them like, council, I need some advice. Like that's exactly what everybody needs, because it can't always be you. I
Yes.
think in American
Yes.
in the Western world, we're so is this the Western world? This is the
Yeah.
Western world. Okay. Just had to get my correction.
Individualized.
Yeah, we're so about individualization and being independent. Like that becomes a weakness at a certain extent. It can be a strength, but it can also be a weakness. And you have to understand that if
Hmm.
we are interdependent and we depend on each other, that it's okay to lean on people. It's okay to bring people into your council. It's just don't be out of balance with it. Don't
And choose the
be
right people.
right. And that's where board of trustees comes in. And I think as an artist, especially as an artist, you need a board of trustees. You need people who are going to be in your corner, who are going to be your cheerleaders, who are going to be your uh give you a clear-minded perspective and an alternate perspective. You need those people, and
Mm.
it's very, very wise, especially at our age, being
Yes.
younger. I'm
Yeah.
still young. I'll be
For
70
sure.
talking about I'm still young,
You're like,
but
no, I'm still young. I'm still young.
I'm still young. Don't touch my life alert button. I'm still young. Just walk around with one of those things, but you need those people. You definitely need those people, and I definitely consider you as part of that board too. So for
Awesome.
sure, for sure. I think
Wow.
as a
I'd like to
man,
thank my mom. I'd like to thank my I'd like to thank my kindergarten teacher.
you just get like a award, like you get benefits, you get coupons and stuff
Right.
sent to your mail. Like, oh, part of Flynn's board of trustees.
And people are like, what even is that? I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just know that I am.
You get a gold certificate.
For
That's
real.
lit. But I think as a man, you need women in your board of trustees, and as a woman, you need men. Just so you have different perspectives. You need different races. Well, I don't know about
Yes.
that one, but you definitely need different genders. That'll
Hmm.
help you like romantically and stuff. But creatively, I think you just need a wide range of creatives. You need
Hmm.
maybe a friend who's more critical, a friend who is kind of more like your biggest cheerleader,
Hmm.
someone who will help you see just the technical aspects of your work rather than the emotional aspects, someone who will look at the smaller picture rather than the bigger picture. And I know personally speaking, that shit can be annoying
Right.
because I'm a big picture thinker. So when someone's pointing at the little details,
You're
I
like, man,
get
no wait, don't even worry about that.
I know it's like, why are you worried about the color right now, bro? Like we're just plotting it out. Like we're we're building a spaceship. Like we're building a
Right.
spaceship. Why does the color matter?
Like, it's a spaceship. Come on.
We're going to the moon. Like we'll get there no matter what color it is. But it helps sometimes to have those people who will kind of
Right.
nitpick you.
Hmm.
But that's oh man, that's definitely needed. Definitely needed.
For real.
So I asked you how poetry benefits you emotionally. Why is it important for us? And this is a little bit more general, so not poetry specifically, but
Hmm.
why is it important for us to use creativity to deal with our emotions rather than vices such as overeating or watching TV or like taking drugs, having sex, things like that? Why is creativity a better option for dealing with our emotions?
I feel like it's a better option because you're more mindful when you're expressing yourself, in a creative way. 'Cause you're, whether that be in a, like how we said earlier, in a superficial way or in a vulnerable vulnerable way. You're still being mindful of what you're putting out there. Versus when you turn to vices, it's kind of just a distraction, really. Like you're not really dealing with the emotions. You're just distracting yourself from that emotion, or emotions for that time being. It's not, you're not really getting to the root of the problem. And that's what I feel like a lot of people do that. And some people do that for their whole lives. And I don't know. But
I don't know
that's
about
not
that.
how,
But you
I
hit
don't
that.
know. That's not how I'm trying to live. But I feel like that's not the way to do it. But I mean, I've seen, you see people do it all the time. But yeah, I just feel like that's just not the way to go, to turn to, I don't know. I just feel like it's not a good way to actually get to the root. I always feel like you should get to the root of an issue. Like, cut all the extra fluff, get to the root of what's causing the problem. Because if you're not actually trying to get to the root of the problem, you're not actually trying to solve the problem. I feel like you just want it to keep on, really. Like yeah, that's how I feel about it.
So you would say that creativity, using creativity as a way to deal with your emotions, helps you get to the root of the problem.
Yes, even if it's not in a direct way. 'Cause sometimes, like how you said, you may not even be meaning to create something in a certain way, but then you start creating, you're like, dang, I didn't know I was feeling like this, like deep down. I didn't know I was, stuff like that. So it kind of makes you reflect, helps you, I don't know, bring out that deep down emotion that you're ignoring.
Right. I can picture that. I honestly can really picture that. I can picture sitting down and then the song almost coming out of you, or whatever you're creating coming out of you in that moment of you sitting in front of whatever you're about to create. It forces itself out of you almost, and forces itself into your attention. And
it's like birth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes. I can see Steve Harvey. Let's go to the board.
Right. Final answer.
Final answer. Is it like birth? No, I'm playing.
Number one answer.
Everybody in the crowd's like, that's a good answer. That always gets me. But that's true. And I think it's very healthy because it's almost like therapy. I think creativity can be like therapy, and people spend a whole bunch of money going to a therapist, and I don't argue against that because whatever works for you is whatever works for you. But I think there's lot of people.
Also, don't put me out of a job. That's what I'm trying to be.
Right.
Hey, chill out.
Right. I think it's almost hand in hand. Creativity and therapy is almost hand in hand, because when you create authentically and vulnerable, and you make yourself vulnerable, because I think creating superficially is a little bit different, because you're not tapping into the root of your emotions and how you feel in a deeper level. When you create from a deeper, more open, vulnerable level, it can be very therapeutic and almost euphoric.
Yes, definitely. It's a very, very cathartic experience. Like afterwards, you'll be like, wow, like that feels like you won't even, it's crazy because it's like, well, I'll speak for myself because I don't know if everyone can relate, but for me, sometimes it feels like, dang, like you feel lighter in a way, and you didn't even realize you were feeling heavy. Like, it's crazy.
Right.
It's like, whoa, like I was carrying a bowling ball in my pocket. That's crazy. That's real crazy.
I was congested. I didn't even know that. What?
Like, for real, it's like that. Blowing your nose really hard, getting all, crazy. It's a good feeling.
For sure. It definitely is. It definitely is. And for me, when I write a song, I can really be at a song for a few hours, and the time passes like that. Time passes like that. And you made a good point. Like, once you really finish it, there is a level of satisfaction that is indescribable.
It's unmatched, really. So good.
I can't put it into words. I can't put it
hmm
into words. So last question. I love ending I was about to call them sessions.
Sessions.
I like I'm a therapist. Our session is coming to an end.
Right. Will you be playing with cash or card?
Right? Oh. Whenever somebody hits me with that, I'm like, dang it, I really just got suckered into this.
Right.
But I like ending. I'll say these conversations. I like ending these conversations with just advice for people out there, something practical for people to implement. Practical advice. So, what is your advice on how people can create from a place of openness, authenticity, and vulnerability?
My advice, be honest with yourself.
Mm.
That's my advice. Be honest with yourself in private first, and once you've mastered that, then maybe go public about it and share it with more people, and you'll get better at being more vulnerable. Because once you have to be vulnerable with yourself first before you're vulnerable with anyone else. And I mean, I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. I feel like people may think that like, well, I'm always vulnerable. I'm me. You know, I have to be vulnerable myself. I see everything that's happening, but it's like, no, you have to be mindful about everything that's going on and kind of be honest with yourself, basically. Because yeah, I feel like you can lie to yourself. You can lie to yourself. I think that is possible. So that's my advice: is to be honest with yourself in private, and then go public.
That is wonderful advice. And you can definitely lie to yourself. I see people lying to themselves every day.
Yes, you just watch them, and you're like, oh, okay.
Be like, I didn't eat any McDonald's today. You see them holding McDonald's,
Right.
ketchup from the. It's like, yeah, I guess you didn't eat any McDonald's. Like,
I'm like, all
okay.
right, is that what we're believing? Okay, all right.
Then they like to hit you with that, your thoughts become your reality. So no, I didn't eat no McDonald's. It's like,
Right.
I don't think that's how it works, buddy.
I'm like, I mean, I see the McDonald's is already manifested in your hand, so.
Right. Hey, let's not talk about the past. That's when they want to hit you with the, oh, that's in the past.
They're like, I'm trying to change. Like, all right.
Yeah, man, that was so like 5 minutes ago. Like, come on, man.
Right? It was so 5 minutes ago.
But
for real. Just start hitting people with that.
You got to. It's beneficial. It has its moments. Moments. But thank you, Unique. This was wonderful. This was therapeutic for me. This came out of very, 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 very convenient. I don't know if convenient's the word. I don't think it's convenient. I don't even know what the word is. Maybe it's. I'm just gonna go with convenient.
Okay.
I've settled on convenient.
We'll stick with that word.
Very, very interesting, convenient time. I really needed all these lessons. Because vulnerability is something that I struggle with. And I know if I struggle with something, I know usually I'm not the only one.
Yeah,
so that's why I try to dive into whatever I feel like is a problem. I try to just talk to people about and see where their mind is at. And I knew you would be perfect for this talk because your work is so free. It's like a butterfly. It's like they're butterflies of vulnerability, and
that's so nice.
That's tight, right? That's tight.
That's dope. I want that on a t-shirt. Butterflies of vulnerability.
That sounds like a business name,
right?
Honestly, but they're like butterflies of vulnerability, and I know that the caterpillars and the other chrysalises, is that what they're called?
Yeah, the chrysalis. When they're in the little cocoon.
Yeah, and like I know that stage for you has been very, very significant because I see the butterflies, and I'm honestly like your work puts me in awe. Like, if I had to describe your work with one word, it would be awe, because you say so much with so little. And I don't mean that as like disrespect. I mean, like, you can have
Hmm.
a 5-line poem and it just means so much and creates such a strong visual in my mind that I'm left in awe.
Right.
So
Wow. Wow. I love to hear that. I really love to. I like that. Literally, stuff like that really motivates me to keep writing. You know. Well, not. I mean, I'm always gonna write, but like, I guess it motivates me to keep sharing my writing. Really.
right. And you should definitely be sharing. There's no reason for you not to share. I tell all my friends who are, and I know this doesn't seem like individual, but this applies to you as well. I tell all my friends who are like writers who do poetry, because it's a very, very vulnerable thing. It's not like music where you can hide behind a beat. You know,
Yeah.
like, it's your voice, and usually it's just your voice and nothing else. Your voice, your words, your perspectives, nothing else.
It's scary
And
sometimes.
it's scary as hell, but you got to do it because there's people out in the world who need to hear it.
Mhm.
They need to. Like, they really need to. And next time I have you on, I'm going to ask you what you feel like is the role of a poet in society, because
Ooh.
obviously you are a poet and we live in a society.
Do we? Do we? Say.
Right? We live in a society. Well, sir, I'd actually, technically speaking, there's always that one guy
I
in the
beg to
background.
differ. Just to play devil's advocate here. Just to play devil's advocate.
Somebody's always playing devil's advocate everywhere. And it's like, bro, that's not
Everywhere.
your job. You don't get paid for this.
Like, stop, please. Are you volunteering to be devil's advocate?
He's like, yo, you know who I am? I'm like, nah, man. I'm that guy who plays devil's advocate in everything. I'm like, what do you mean in everything? Like, in everything. Why?
It doesn't matter what the issue is.
Right. He the type of guy to want to play 3-player tic-tac-toe. It's like, bro, you can't do that. You can't just come out with a triangle. It's tic-tac-toe. Like, it don't work like that.
They're like, actually.
Actually, the symbol doesn't matter. And it's like, okay, God, you got it. You got it.
You got it. Yeah, but that's a good topic. Like, okay, I'll definitely be thinking about that.
Definitely. So the plan is to kind of do these in seasons. I actually don't know how I'm going to do this, and that's why we talked about beginner's mind earlier. Learning as I go, figuring it out as I go. But I definitely kind of want to break these things down into seasons, because, you know, it's kind of a lot. But
Right.
definitely want to bring you back on for season 2. I'd say this is part of season 1.
Holy, I made it to season 2. Wow.
I know you got the what is it? We got renewed for a second season.
Wow, already. Oh my gosh. I need to prepare my speech. I need to, wow.
Right? Season 3 canceled. No. That's
They
crazy.
always do that. They always do that to the good shows.
Right. But the kind of good shows, not the great shows. Like the
Right.
good ones that are about to get really good, you gotta cut them off.
They'll be like, oh no, that's been canceled. Sorry. We're left hanging.
Oh man. Any last words for the audience?
Okay, so last words, I feel like you should just get out there and create. Just like get out there, no matter what it is, you just get out there and create something. It doesn't even have to be strictly an artistic thing. It could even be with like computer programming, stuff like that. Just go and create something. Those are my last words.
You heard it here first. That unique tape coming
Right.
soon.
Get out there
and create
be aggressive,
something.
but to get out there and create something.
The DJ
now.
You heard that here first. Live 723.
All right.
It's like, okay, dude. Okay, guy. I get it. We get it.
Yes.
We heard her. Get out there and create. But yeah, y'all heard it here first. This is the Artist Path. I'm your host, Flynn.
Yes, sir.
You heard what she said. Get out there and create. And we out.